everyone, it's Heidi M. And I'm going to do a quick video to talk about two plays that I've seen in the last couple of weeks here in Toronto. The first one is Winter Solstice by German playwright Roland Schimmelpfennig, and it is a story that is set in Christmas Eve around when a charming and unexpected guest arrives at the home of a very polite bourgeois family for, I guess, Christmas Eve dinner. So the play itself is challenging, and I'm going to read you something that the playwright himself has said about his works in general. His quote is, "What I do is some sort of echo of the world that I live in. It's not only about me. It's about me and the others. I want the plays to achieve more, and that's the important thing. I want to seduce the audience to really get into it. That is only possible in the theater if there's a certain amount of truth, and if there is truth, there's pain as well." Of this play, Winter Solstice, Roland Schimmelpfennig has said, "My focus was always on the method of the fascist seduction. It's not new, it works every time, and it's horrible." So those are his words in terms of what his plays are about and what he wants to accomplish and about Winter Solstice. And I will say that I agree. This play is a co-production between Necessary Angel Theatre and Canadian Stage. It is a comedy. It is a satire. And it is a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner play, as it's been described by different people. But the actual guest is a fascist. So we are placed into this setting where we know it's somebody's home and there are tensions within the family. The play involves 5 actors at all times. One of the actors plays 2 roles in terms of being a narrator of sorts. So shout out to the cast here of Frank Cox O'Connell, Kira Goulian, Cyrus Lane, Diego Matamoros, Nancy Polk. And I'm going to list the creative team because they've done really well in terms of the setting of the play. So we have the director, Alan Dilworth, set and lighting designer, Lorenzo Savoini, costume designer, Ming Wong, sound designer and composer, Deb Sina. Associate costumer and designer is Ellie Kaufman. Production manager and technical director is Rick Banville. Associate production manager is Jalen Innes, and stage manager is Sarah Miller, and assistant manager, stage manager, Elise Satkowski. So I'm listing all of these people because there are this many people behind the scenes, but what we see on stage is very simple to us. It's a bench that is sort of like in a square rectangle setting on stage. There are not a lot of props. The actors are interacting with one another at all times. It is a very dialogue-heavy play, and because of the limited staging in terms of props, we're relying on the words. So we're hearing the words, the dialogue, with a little bit of cues from the lighting and the sound and the music. And basically, we're transfixed there. We're basically stuck in this house just like any other guest in this house. And we have to kind of figure out what's going on. There are dynamics between the mother and daughter, between the daughter and her husband. There's another friend, like a good friend of the husband that shows up, and there's a different dynamic there in terms of the husband and the wife and this one friend. And there's this unexpected guest who's very charming, charismatic, who is invited there by the mother who's coming to visit her daughter for the holidays. So I will say that I didn't know where to go with I didn't know where the play would go, honestly, because it's my first time seeing one of these plays written by Roland Schimmelpfennig. And I enjoyed it because it's challenging. So when I did say that in the beginning where it's challenging, it's a good thing. That's what he wants his plays to be, to make us feel uncomfortable when it's uncomfortable, to make us question what's going on stage, because I am questioning it. Is this guy really a fascist? Are we examining him in an unfair way, or is he one of those people that will say certain things and then you might want to agree with him, but then you realize he continues to speak and then it just becomes something else? And I think that's what it is. The more you let people talk, the more they show themselves as who they truly are, their beliefs, their morals, and that is the nuance in how certain fascist attitudes can come into society, right? In terms of making us feel like, oh, okay, I think we know, it's not so bad. But then everything, all the layers become apparent. So shout out to the cast. It's a huge task to speak through the entire show with no break. So as an audience member, I would say come prepared, bring yourself a cup of tea, a coffee. You are welcome to bring a cup of a drink in the theater. I basically just allowed myself to sit there and kind of just go along with the ride. And I think I'm glad that I did. My good friend that joined me for that evening that we went also enjoyed the plays. We both think it's a really good play, but maybe we're not sure that everybody will appreciate it because it is, again, set on a very specific stage, not a lot of props, a lot of dialogue. So I would say be open minded. And a lot of dialogue is not a bad thing. And these actors really hold their own. So I want to give a shout out to Necessary Angel and Canadian Stage for putting this production together of Winter Solstice. I know I'm a little bit behind in speaking about this play, but I really had to sit with it, to be honest with you. There was a lot in the play that I had to think about, not to mention my own life being extremely busy lately, and I'm not feeling 100% yet from this winter cold. So very timely, very well done, very well written, and it's a play that I think is going to make me think about different things at different times. So that's Winter Solstice, care of Canadian Stage. So now I want to speak about Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is another production by Canadian Stage currently on stage in Toronto. It is my first time seeing a theater production of this story. Full disclosure, I have tried to see the film version, but I have not been able to finish it. So I was very much looking forward to attending this production just last weekend. So, for those of you who might not know, the play is sort of a twisted portrayal of married life, where by one late night after a university faculty soiree or get together, George and Martha welcome a younger couple into their home. We're talking about like 2 a.m. here. And as the drinks keep going, alcoholic beverages keep flowing, and dawn gets near, the young couple are drawn into George and Martha's toxic games until things reach a climax and a moment of devastating truth telling. So this is just a summary for you of the show. The play is directed by artistic director Brendan Haley, and it stars very huge names here. People like Paul Gross, Martha Burns, who are a real life couple, Haley Gillis, as well as we had originally listed Mac Fife in the role of Nick, but unfortunately, due to some health concerns, it is now Ryland Wilkie in that role. And Roland, you did an excellent job on your first night in terms of opening night. It was quite the task, and they did well. So essentially, we have 4 people on stage. So if you're seeing a theme here, it's we are in confined spaces in the 2 plays that I've been talking about so far. We are in people's homes. There are dynamics at play. In the case of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, there are power dynamics and couple dynamics within set up on stage. And I will say that I was thoroughly impressed by the production. So I'm going to go through the names of those who are involved behind the scenes. We have sound designer Thomas Ryder Payne, assistant stage manager Megan Frebelius, director Brendan Healy, which I mentioned, fight and intimacy director Anita Nittoli, there's a coach, an Alexander coach, Kelly McEvenew, set and costume design by Julie Fox, choreographer Alisa Martin, lighting designer Kimberly Patel, and stage manager Tamara Protek. And I will say, I always a shout out to those behind the scenes because they're the ones that make things look so easy. The set staging design works really well here. There were times when I felt that I was in someone's home around 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm not gonna lie to you. So this is another show that is about 3 hours and a half, perhaps, but there are a couple of intermissions here, so don't worry about that. But I want to let you know how much I enjoyed the performances by everyone on stage. Paul Gross, I was completely thoroughly impressed. I have seen his work before, but I haven't seen him on stage in a while, so it was really nice to see. And I know that him and his wife Martha Byrne have done work together on interviews around this show recently in terms of how they, because of their personal relationship off stage, the dynamics that are being played out in this play, literally, and pun intended, made sense. Because if you are in a partnership with someone, there are days when you don't get along really well, and those nuances, that tension is there, and it's easy to pull from everyday life to make it look really believable. And the two of them were just so great on stage, and you can see how they feed off each other's energy in those performances. So kudos to both of them, because those are not easy characters. They're not necessarily always likable characters. But then again, we also have, as I mentioned, Haley Gillis, and I keep blanking out on the name because my note just got lost here. Rylan Wilkie, and they're the younger couple in this interaction, and they also are really good together. Haley, I love that character of being kind of naive and somebody who's maybe had a bit too much brandy, so they don't feel well, and then they kind of are still an ingenue in a lot of ways when it comes to couple dynamics, and there's a lot of stuff that is underneath that facade of, not a facade of naivete, but it's that layer that's it's underneath, that comes through towards the end of the show with both of these characters. And I will say that I'm kind of wanting to see it again. I know it's a long play, but it is salacious when it needs to be salacious. It is provocative. It is also, it's funny. There were many times when we were laughing as an audience, and there were many times when people were gasping based on what was happening on stage, or sometimes a little bit heartbroken, because I think we can all relate to these dynamics and power dynamics that occur in relationships. And I am very much looking forward to exploring more of Edward Albee's plays, which I haven't really had the chance to do so. And I will say that if you are curious to see these really great performances on stage, now is your time. This play is actually running until February 16th, so I definitely recommend it. And you can find information on both Winter Solstice and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at the Canadian Stage website, canadianstage.com. I will say that just buckle in and go along for the ride, and they're going to challenge you, but they're going to challenge you in a very, very good way. So again, Winter Solstice and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.